What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first video on C-Jab Talks. So, if you don't know who I am, my name is C-Jab, and I run another YouTube channel that is dedicated to gaming and things like that. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, make sure you go check that out. The link's going to be in the description below. But I just wanted to introduce you to who I am if you don't know who I am, and welcome you to this brand new channel, C-Jab Talks, where we're going to be talking about all kinds of things with Jesus, the Bible, theories, things like that. That's what's going to be expected in this channel. I used to do a little bit in my old channel, but the way the YouTube algorithm works, we got to dedicate one thing. So I decided to make a brand new channel to dedicate Jesus to this channel, gaming to that channel, so the YouTube algorithm understands how to categorize and show my channel to people. For the first video on this channel, let me tell you, it's a good one. It's a very controversial one, that's for sure too. So without further ado, hope you enjoy the video. Let's check it out. So today, we're answering that age-old question. Are tattoos a sin? Well, it's a question that is asked all the time from Christians and from people, and a lot of them like to say tattoos are a sin. They're horrible. They're evil. They're disfiguration. Whatever. Simple answer. As you can tell, as you probably guessed, I'm going to say they're not. They are not a sin. Here's a detailed explanation as to why they're not a sin. I was going to make this a short, but there's a lot that I want to cover, so I decided to make a full video about it. So, here is the explanation as to why tattoos are not a sin. So one of the greatest verses that everybody likes to talk about is Leviticus 19:28. Let's read it really quickly. Leviticus 19:28. You shall not make any cuts on your body for the dead or tattoo yourselves. I am the Lord. So this is the law that Moses was given by God to the Israelites after they came up out of Egypt, after God saved them from Pharaoh and the Red Sea, and you know the story. This is the law given to them. This is what we would refer to as the Old Covenant. We'll get to that in a little bit. So, first off, let's talk about why did God say this specifically? Because obviously, tattoo guns and things like they weren't around back in the Bible days, obviously. I'm sure people could find a way to tattoo things on them, but like traditional tattoos were not around. So this is of course our English version, reading things like that. But why did it say you shall not make cuts on your body for the dead or tattoo yourselves, I am the Lord? So here's why. A lot of cultures back then, they would, for their God, they would cut themselves and they would do just these nasty things and disfigurations to themselves on their bodies. That is why God gave this law. He did not want his people cutting themselves for him. There was no reason for that, to harm themselves. There's no reason. So that's why this law was given. Proof of this was in 1 Kings chapter 18. So in this is the battle between Elijah and the prophets of Baal. I'm sure you've heard this theory. Just follow the rest of the video if you've heard this, because there's more to it than just this. Trust me. But if you haven't, so let's talk about it. So Elijah versus the prophets of Baal. Basically, there was a competition. You had the prophets of Baal, a fake pagan god, and Elijah, prophet of God, of Adonai, our God. So basically, what happened was they wanted to have a competition between to see whose God was real. So the prophets of Baal said, let's do a competition where we have a bull. We both have bulls on sacrifices, and whoever's God lights it on fire first, that God is real. Okay, that's the basic idea for it. You can read more into it if you'd like. That's just a brief summary. But anyways, let's get to verse 28. This is where it gets serious. Verse 28. And they cried aloud and cut themselves after their custom with swords and lances until their blood gushed out upon them. This is where God is saying not to cut yourselves for him, because these other religions would cut themselves for their gods and let their blood pour and try to all that creepy weird stuff, you know. So that's the big basis for that law. How it got translated to tattoo in the ESV version, I'm not sure, because the other versions, a lot of versions don't transfer it as tattoo, but just for the sake of this video, we'll keep it in ESV. So anyways, the story continues, and basically Elijah's like, all right, my turn. And he called upon God, he prayed to God, and bam, fire. So Elijah won. Our God's real, their God's not, obviously. So that's where that law comes from. That's why God gave them that law. So a lot of videos like to just stop there and say, that's why it was given. It's okay to tattoo yourselves, and just as long as you're not cutting yourself for another god or for some other evil reason, you know, whatever. I'm not going to stop there. There's a whole lot more proof than just that, because a lot of people are like, well, it says right there, it says tattoo in the ESV version and not in the other versions, I don't think. I could be wrong about that. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, though. So I got a lot more proof. Let's go back to this Leviticus 19. In the exact same law, in fact, in the verse directly before it, it says, "You shall not round off the hair on your temples or mar the edges of your beard." The verse directly before, which for some reason, just out of convenience, everybody forgets this verse. Really convenient, isn't it? It literally says, if you round off the hair on your temples, if you round it, or if you mar the edges of your beard, if you have a beard and it's a little bit, if it's disfigured or destroyed or whatever, you're sinning. It's the exact same law. So how can you say that tattooing yourselves is a sin, but having a haircut where your temple right here is rounded is not? It's the exact same law. It is the exact, in fact, it's the verse directly before it. Why is that not mentioned? Okay, well now you might be confused and you're like, well now I don't know what to believe because the Bible says not to do this and do that. And let me trust me, if you've never read Leviticus, first off, it's kind of a hard read. I don't want to say I don't want to say anything negative about the Bible, but it's a hard read because it's a bunch of laws that God gave that we now don't have to follow, basically. Now, let me tell you why. So, here's the first thing that I want to talk about as to why this law that God gave, and it's the old covenant, we have a new covenant. Here is why I want to explain it. First off, that law was given to Jews, to the Israelites, to the Jewish people. Now, that law was given to them. It was not given to the Gentiles. We are Gentiles. We are not Jewish, therefore we are Gentiles. Now, if you're Jewish, I'll get to that in a minute. But for the most part, a lot of us are Gentiles. So that law was not even given to us. That's the first thing I want to point out. Now, here's a little more in detail. Matthew 5:17. This is Jesus speaking. Jesus says, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." Okay, Jesus states the law is not abolished. He's talking about that law. The laws that we just read, there's a whole list of them, like I said. He's talking about that law. He didn't come to abolish and get rid of them, but he came to fulfill them. If something's fulfilled, then it's fulfilled. It's finished. You can't follow something that's fulfilled. Therefore, it's fulfilled. That's why we can eat pork. That's why we can round the side of our hair on our temples. That's why we don't care about our beard. Our beard, it's not a sin to have a nasty looking beard. It's nasty, but it's not a sin. No, those laws no longer are for us because Jesus, when he died on the cross, he fulfilled the law. Okay? Therefore, another reason, tattoos are not a sin. Even if it was back then, it can't be now because it's fulfilled. So if you have a tattoo, you're not a sin. Now, I will say, if you're getting tattoos with pentagrams, evilness, say whatever, evil things or whatever, that's different. Okay, that is different. That's giving praise to another god. What, so on and so forth. That's evil. That is not okay. I want to clarify that. But I feel like it's just your conscience. If you know it's something that's obviously evil, then don't get it. It's just kind of basic. Now, if you're still not convinced or whatever, I still have more proof for you. An argument that a lot of people like to use is, even though all that proof is given, they will say, your body's a temple. God says your body's a temple, which he does. Very true. Why would you want to disfigure the temple? If you're not born with tattoos, why would you want to get them? Because God made you perfect. Okay, true. I kind of can understand that argument, and I was wondering, well, that's a good argument. So what's the comeback to that? I actually had a friend. I didn't think of this. A friend brought this attention to me. And if you're watching this video, I'm not going to mention him by name, but you know exactly who you are because you brought this up one time. Completely changed my view of this entirely. He said, does your mother have earrings? Not to me, but for the sake of the video, I'll act like he was talking to me. I'll be like, it's like, yes, of course my mom has earrings. What mom doesn't? A lot of moms do. A lot of people have earrings, not just moms. A lot of people have earrings. Or nose piercings, or so on. I said, okay, well, is that not a disfiguration? Is that not, you're piercing, you are literally piercing your ears with a needle. You're piercing it. Is that not a disfiguration of the temple? Now you may be thinking, well, crap, are earrings and are nose rings and piercings, are they sinful? Well, the Bible talks a lot about nose rings and earrings, actually. The section that we're going to read into is Ezekiel 16:12. I'm not going to read the whole entire chapter. We're just going to read 16:12. But if you read the whole chapter of 16, what I've come to the conclusion to is that this is, well, first off, this is God. It literally starts the chapter with, again, the word of the Lord came to me. So this is God speaking. I believe God is talking about the Jews, Jerusalem, the Israelites, whenever he brought them up out of captivity and things like that. I'm pretty sure God is referring to them in this text. There's a lot of analogies given, and it's basically how God saved them from nothing, and then they said, and then they threw everything away that God gave them, basically. So in the middle of this, God gives an analogy. In 16:12, God says, "And I put a ring on your nose and earrings in your ears and a beautiful crown on your head." God is giving us a analogy of how he blessed the people of Jerusalem. He blessed them. He blessed them. It says, he put a ring on your nose and earrings in your ears and a beautiful crown on your head. It says right there, why would God use an analogy with earrings and nose piercings if it's a bad thing? And God's saying he gave it to them. Obviously, I don't, like, not literally, he's, I think, referring to it metaphorically. Why would he say that in a good sense if it's bad? God himself right there, plain as day. So there's that. So ear piercings aren't a sin. Nose piercings aren't a sin, and they are technically disfigurations. I mean, they're piercings. Tattoos are no different than that, are they? They're disfigurations if you say that way. So they're not a sin. I'm saying it plain as day right here, boldly. I'm saying tattoos are not a sin. But like I said, unless you're doing it for a horrible reason, your conscience, your spirit will guide you, and you'll know this is evil, this is not evil. Now, I don't have any tattoos personally. I may get one day, I don't know. But I will say they are not a sin. There are many, many reasons as to why they are not a sin. I gave just a brief overview of it. So if somebody says Leviticus says you can't have a tattoo, well, Leviticus also says you can't eat a pig, you can't round the hair on your temple. It gives so many laws. If you wear the wrong type of clothing, you're sinning. So why are you choosing this one law and not every other law? You can't just follow one thing in the law, you have to follow the whole law. So, but I also gave the reason as to why the law is fulfilled, therefore it is not, we don't have to follow it anymore. There is undeniable evidence that tattoos are not a sin, and I hope that you are not angry at this. I hope that you listen to it. Like, I know a lot of people will get mad if you try to tell them this, and I'm like, it's right there. Like, you can't use Leviticus against tattoos because the verse directly before it says you can't do the thing with your hair and beard. So that is such an invalid argument. So I hope you learned something from this video, and yeah, hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed the video, you know, hit that like button and subscribe. Help me out a lot. Good Lord, I'm tongue-tied. It would help me out a lot, and I'd appreciate it very much. Hope you have a blessed evening, morning, day, night, wherever you're at in the world. I hope you have a blessed one. I love you all. Remember that Jesus loves every single one of you, and I will see you in the next one.